Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra,
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people.
associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked.
and sometimes what didn't,
You will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts.
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Disarming is the word that came to my mind while working on this episode that features Sivaguru, my co-host of the Software People Stories, and Ujjwal Trivedi. I mean, so many times I've taken for granted what I thought was the problem, and yet it's simple to practice a few things to make sure you really understand what your customers need. Ujjwal Trivedi shares his journey into product management and what it takes to develop skills for the role. His approach is one of simplicity, and when you listen, you feel that you can do it as well.
Hi, Ujjwal. Welcome to the Software People Stories.
Hey, hi Shiva. Great to be here.
Yeah, this is a conversation that has been long pending. Always been wanting to understand your story and then how you got into IT in general and into product management in particular. So we can begin with your origin story.
Sure. I think the origin of getting into IT, I was doing my engineering and wanted to get into a larger or better degree in technology. Wanted to, I had a childhood dream of becoming a scientist. So after my engineering, I wanted to become, do an MTech and probably get into the ISRO or some other such institutions and do some sort of research, create some new products. I was very interested in communication and defense related products. So I was an electronics and communications and engineer. So that was something that used to be very interesting for me, and my projects during the graduation were also around these lines. During the course of engineering, I lost my father, and then the financial condition of the family was such where I had to desperately take up a job. So then I did what most of the batchmates would do in engineering around 2005. Suddenly after the dot-com bubble, 2005 was a time, fortunately, where there was a lot of euphoria again among the software IT services companies. They had started hiring in bulk. I got a chance to get campus recruited to one of the decent software IT services companies, and I just went ahead and joined it. Only after I joined the services company, I was there for 3 years. I have a habit of giving my best at what is available, and of course keeping a target at some another dream or whatever is there, and then constantly self-evaluating, understanding what is possible, what is going on, what do I continue to love doing, and things like that. That's where I realized that sort of gave up on any ideas of getting out of IT services and then get doing an MTech of sorts. I wanted to continue with what I had and try to become excellent at what I was doing. Also, during the course of my work in the first 2 years, there's a lot of feedback coming in from colleagues, the managers, and clients. I sort of realized that there is like I'm a little better at the business side of things more than the technology side of things. That also encouraged me to explore possibilities in the business side of things. I again, still did not have money to do an MBA. Good habits, come to rescue sometimes. Like I had a good habit of reading, and I thought like, and I had always fancied this that why should, like, if it's all in the books, why should someone take up the costly courses? Of course, that overall is not a true thing. I think lack of knowledge sometimes help. So I was able to, or I tried to take up a lot of reading material by asking a lot of friends about what they are studying in their MBAs. And yeah, I mean, actually started picking up some of those academic books that they prescribed, and then I kind of found my way through what should I read, what should I not read, and end up reading a lot of books. And then to sort of fill the gap of not being able to do an MBA, then forced my way through to get into the non-tech side of the services. Initially I was a developer. I kind of worked my ass off for 4 to 5 years trying to be at par with the other brilliant developers around me. I wasn't that great at technology, to be honest. Tried to fill the gap with more time investment and more hard work, and then essentially figured that yeah, probably my strength lies in the business side of things and I should explore that. Ended up becoming a business analyst after 5 years in the services company that I was working with. And that's funny. I mean, it just like happened by chance that I was going through a management development program of sorts in a very small company that I was working with. It was about 400 people company. They had their brains at the right place for sure. I mean, they know who to retain and how to nurture talent and all of that. I was one of the youngest people to be a part of their, next level management program, leadership training program of sorts. And yeah, I think someone saw me presenting in that during, that program. One of the tasks was to present some project or something. And he offered me to, get into a business analyst role that he was looking for outside. And I think that's where things kind of turned. I was looking for such an opportunity. I grabbed it, and then everyone was happy with what I came out with. And then I kind of looked for more specific business roles in the next set of organizations that I moved to, and finally landed in product management in early 2013. I think officially started in the product management role in early 2013. I was doing sort of product management a little before that also as a business analyst in a services company. The kind of things that I ended up doing for the 2 3 years pretty much also is a little bit of product management. Of course not completely as we understand it, but part of it definitely is can be considered, or at least I learned the basic skills of product management there. That piece is where a little bit gets interesting, that I kind of discovered product management in 2010, that there is some role like this. And then I landed up in this role in a product company in Bangalore in 2013. And yeah, then I've been enjoying this and trying to see with various avenues that I have. So I've learned a lot of things the hard way. So I'm trying to see how can I make it easy for the next set of PMs coming up. That's the product management, or in breaking into product management story.
Wonderful, Ujjwal. In fact, the main intent behind Software People Stories is also to pay it forward, share our experiences with others who can probably benefit from this. So, quite a few thoughts come to my mind, starting with this transition from, let's say, being in a service company or being a developer when probably everything is specified to you, or at least most things are specified, saying now you go implement this, to a business analyst, probably somewhat like your ISRO thing, where if you are looking at that, I kind of look at the sky and say, oh, there are so many stars, all those dots to be connected, where there is so much of ambiguity, but still the creativity and freedom is there. So how was that transition for you?
I wasn't that typical engineering guy. I would always come back with an added. So I, as an engineer, also I did a lot of documentation for software. I used to naturally get involved in a lot of client interaction, understanding the requirements. I kind of worked on very new technologies. So started working on Ruby on Rails, for example, in 2006, and iPhone development in 2008-9, when these technologies were extremely new, so new that a lot of my established colleagues kind of were not so keen on picking them up. They were like, yeah, I'm getting to work on .NET. I'm getting to work on Java. Why should I pick up a new technology, a project which may come, may not come? I'm not sure. I think that kind of dream of actually doing some R&D kind of work kicked in, and I kind of grabbed those opportunities in the as and when I got them. So when when I saw such an opportunity, and my manager asked me that, okay, three people have denied this, so I was of course the fourth choice.
Yeah.
But when she asked me this, I just said yes, before she could complete. And she sort of wanted me to be very sure, and wanted me to confirm 10 times before I actually said yes. But I just wanted to get out of the rut, and do something new, and try out the new technology. So definitely, I think that was the key thing that I was able to, where I was able to gather a lot of, or explore a lot of these areas, where, because the technology is new, because it's open source, a lot of new you have to learn, which means you have to look at the world to learn, because there are no books available. There are not a lot of documentation available, so you have to search the whole internet, depend on a lot of people who are blogging out there. I discovered blogging in 2006, and then I realized that, oh, it is so helpful, and I should do the same. I should probably pay back when I get whatever learnings I have. I should start sharing it with the blogosphere, with the internet, so that, again, the idea has always been that if I have been able to learn from random people on the internet, and I'm sure there are a few learnings that I have had, and I can share with the world, and some people out there could benefit. So I also started doing that, and of course there has been a creative side. I used to write offline in my diaries, some bit of poetries, and been part of the editorial committee in the college magazine, and all sorts of literary places wherever I had a chance to do that. So I think blogosphere kind of also gave that side also, some opportunity and wings that I could explore that. So I was always kind of doing these things. So the transition wasn't really, it was always like, you found something that you coveted. So it wasn't more like a outside in, it was more of an inside out kind of a transition, that I was now doing what I was doing in a constrained way, what I was looking to do. So requirement gathering, for example, was something that I was doing from the beginning. Putting in those creative inputs, and then discussing with the client is something that I was doing by default. Whatever I was developing was, I would always go back with n+2 features, saying, I just thought this would also be useful. Fortunately, had good clients, an opportunity to work with really good people who would appreciate and encourage such things. So I think it wasn't, transition wise, it wasn't any change management required per se. So from developer to business analyst, definitely not much of a transition as a issue. I just enjoyed doing all of this a lot. So I used to write a lot of blogs and posts, and love stories and poems at that time. And when I got into business analysis, I think all my creativity or creative juices were employed on the job, right? So I didn't have a
Okay.
chance to explore the other possibilities, and that was one measure that I could see, or I could sense that, okay, I am not actually getting and exploring and writing all the other stuff now, because probably all my creativity is getting kind of, I'm getting to be creative at work. I'm able to write stuff, things that I love to do. I'm just focusing. So there wasn't a difference between work and, hobby anymore. So that was a lovely thing to have.
Yeah, that's cool. Nowadays, people talk about finding your ikigai. So looks like you found it.
Yeah.
between your passion and your profession. See, when you mentioned that you would always go back with two more features or two more functions that could be implemented and all that, how did you develop, or what can others learn from your experience in terms of developing empathy for the users, which probably helps a lot in terms of identifying solutions or coming up with suggestions?
So empathy is something that I've probably hard time articulating. How can you develop that? I just always felt that there is a natural attribute or a natural skill that I had where I was able to feel a lot for the for people around me. Whatever, I mean, I could sense, perceive emotions better than some of the other people that were around me were able to do. So I think there is a natural capability to perceive the situation, the emotion around you, and I think it's about being conscious about doing it. I think one of the things that now I tell my team to develop empathy is actually talk to a lot of stakeholders with an open mind, with an open ear. So you're not there to defend what you have built, not there to interrogate those guys if they were using it correctly. It is more about just hearing, seeing what people are going through, right? People, your users, how they are going through or what they are going through. So for example, like create part of one module of our software is used by the drivers. I would encourage, after trying it myself, I would encourage my team to try out that software by actually being in the driver's seat. So if you know how to drive, take that, drive around and use that app like your end user would. That would actually give you that, okay, one of the things would be that, okay, while standing in the or while sitting in the sun, the kind of components that you have in the software may not really come out that well. Or if you have probably not had great contrast, it would be very hard for you to see what you're supposed to do. So I think getting out of the building, following the user in their daily life and dog fooding, I think those are a few things that definitely help a lot in developing empathy for the end user. So one of the things that as a discipline trying to implement in our team is that every week you have to talk to a customer every week.
Wow.
Whether it is, whether you create an opportunity to talk to them somehow, or if you're not getting an opportunity to talk to them because some of them might be on a separate kind of project and they're not directly interacting with the customer, or there are no customers, for example, you reach out to prospective customers, or just be part of a sales demo. Listen in a lot, spend that 1 or 2 hours listening to what kind of questions customer is asking, what your sales guy is going through. And it's not only about customers, so you have to manage all these stakeholders. See what your sales guy is going through, what your customer success guy is going through, what kind of what is good or bad about your product that your users are liking or not liking as much. And what is it that troubles them is something that you will be able to pick when you just keep silently observing and participating in these some of these things. And I think that has been really helpful.
So this also is a nice segue into another passion of yours and trying to see how that can be, which is helping the startup ecosystem, helping entrepreneurs, encouraging them, and so on. One of the common questions that we get asked is, if India is so great in software, why are there no world class solutions that are coming out of here? How much of that do you think is because of the geographical separation? When you build something, you just talked about talking, listening to your users, observing their behaviors, and so on. What could be some things that people can use which has worked for you, or probably some things that we can avoid which you tried and didn't work, to understand users whom you cannot probably directly get in touch with?
I think even if you cannot directly get in touch with, so one is that accepting that fact that I do not know much about this user is a great starting point. If you go with a view that I understand the user, or every user is like how I am, or like what I know about, trying to draw parallels or analogies, or looking for, assuming those things, those are the things that one should avoid, and then go with an empty slate. If you That's what you have, right? If you have an empty slate and you don't know about the user, first I think step is to understand and explain and bring everyone in the team on the same page, that see, we do not know about this user, so let us try and understand about the user. I think this is what has sort of worked whenever I have ended up creating a new product for a new market that we've not understood. We have never tried to even in my current talk, like we recently did this, we've never tried to kind of second guess what our users would want. I think the approach has been that how can you talk to the user, understand what they would need, have some sort of questionnaires, more people talking to them in different forms, and understanding what their needs are. I mean, just going with an open mind without thinking about what problem you are trying to solve, or what solution you have, or you're trying to build. Just going with an open mind, trying to understand the relevant aspects of the kind of experiences they're having currently and the problems that they're facing currently. That kind of gives you a very good idea about what people might look for, end up buying. And in fact, I've taken a lot of workshops for people in how do you communicate with the customer to validate or invalidate your ideas. And most people end up pitching or defending their ideas, right? When they go to the customers, they would just start with a question which sort of the solution to which leads to their pitch. So even if I tell them don't pitch, they would naturally very tempted to have leading answers from the customers. And what I do is I sort of try doing a role play. So after telling a little bit of theory about how to do it, I would ask people to come and assume that, or pick maybe people where I can be a customer, because otherwise I can't be. And this is also fun. In fact, I would take one example where I would say that, okay, why don't you like assume I'm a potential customer, and you ask me, and then the first thing that they would ask me, my answer would be, no, I don't use such a thing, or I don't have such a thing. And I think the second question onwards, they start going on the wrong path, where they start asking me to imagine, start asking me that, okay, suppose. And I have to stop them right then, that no. If I'm not the customer, if you feel I'm not the potential customer, forget it. That's end of conversation there. So for example, if say I'm creating medicine delivery for people who have, busy people who have old parents at home. And like, do you have old parents at home? I'm like, no. Like, okay, what if you have, old parent? Would you? I'm like, no, I don't have old parents. I'm not your customer. Forget it. Go to the next one. I mean, and this is something again that I've realized, that people are extremely bad at predicting their own behaviors. So asking them to do that is just, not going to help in any way. I think that is what is extremely important, that you, when you talk to the customers, you stay away from asking them to predict behaviors. You should avoid asking them what we like to call as candy questions. That would you like? Candy questions are like where when you ask a kid, would you like a candy, the answer is going to be yes. Right? So avoid candy questions, avoid leading questions, and then try and explore the real problem that they're facing. And it's okay if they come back with, or a lot of times what happens is that what the imagination that you had about the problem is not what comes out when the customer starts narrating stories. And you realize that, okay, it's also very discouraging and hard at that situation, that at that point, that you realize that this is not going the way you had planned or you had thought. But I think that is also a great opportunity. If you keep your eyes and ears and mind open, you would probably pick up the other ancillary pain points that the customer have, and gives you ideas about pivoting to a different related problem that the same customer might have, instead of one that you went in with. I think that discovery phase is extremely important for any kind of startup that is in there, and that's what I think I try to do. Like whenever I've tried helping any startup, first approach is to make them realize what they do not know about the customers or their target market or target segment, and then how can they potentially learn about their target users. If you sort this piece, a lot of other pieces kind of start taking care of themselves.
Even though it sounds so simple, all these candy questions,
Yeah.
I guess, are very difficult to avoid, and you need to be conscious about it. So, you have any tips, any training that helps, either personal discipline, personal practices, or some proven techniques?
So what I've come to realize is two things. One is that you have to have a questionnaire in advance, that you know what you're going to ask a potential customer. It helps to run it with a person who has done it, any expert in the field or any person who might have done a lot of surveys or questionnaires and knows how to do it. It helps to run it through them. The second, I think, tip is that always do it with a buddy.
Okay.
Do it in pairs rather than doing it alone. Do it in pairs kind of helps that one person is asking questions, another person is answering, and then there's this buddy who's observing, taking notes of different kinds. So it's always great. I've seen that your buddy always comes with a very different set of insights than what you do as a person who's asking questions, because you are very focused on the content that is coming out, and the next question that you want to ask and things like that, how it is going, the flow and all of that. Your buddy is a silent observer, so they are not really worried about what is the content flow. They can focus on the non-verbal clues, on the emotions, and also the meaning of what is coming out. Whatever people say can be interpreted in multiple ways, and the more people listen into that same conversation can potentially interpret in different ways, and then you get better perspectives. So I think those are two quick things that I would suggest, that if you're doing this kind of talking to the customers, so you should do it in pairs. It that helps a lot.
Good tips. So, as we come towards the close of this
Mhm.
conversation, I have two
Mhm.
questions. One is, what would be your tips for somebody who's either considering a career in product
Mhm.
management or considering a switch to product management from some other role in IT, like you did?
Whether product management or not product management, I my so my career advice per se is very small and simple. Is to do what you love to do, right? So, and it's a little hard to actually internalize and follow, but I think that's the only way. I mean, you would ever come across. You don't really know at any given point what you want to really do 5 6 years 10 years down the line, and you always think you know. So I sort of
Yeah.
knew in college what I wanted to do, or in school when I wanted to become a scientist. I knew that this is it. This is what I want to do, and it helps knowing something, or or targeting something. It always helps. But I think, yeah, it changes with the dynamics of life, and you and the world. You should be open for these kind of changes. So focusing on trying out a bunch of things, and trying to do what you love to do is extremely useful. And that's one thing. If you keep doing and if it works out, you would probably end up finding your ikigai, or doing what you love to do at your job. Essentially, you would be able to make your passion your work. It does not feel like work anymore. So yeah, I think that is what always advise the youngsters to follow. That if I want to write do copywriting, I wouldn't wait for a copywriting assignment to come or pick up a copywriting gig. I would just do some sort of copywriting, why don't I could do that on my blog post, I could do that on my Facebook post. If I was into poster designing, I could just potentially design a bunch of things for my org, for my friends' orgs. So there's so much happening in and around you that you can always get an opportunity to explore the kind of things that you want to. There's no reason for you to wait for an official designation to do what you want to do. Explore a lot of different things that you feel could make sense in your career or in your life, and then that's how you would be able to derive what you would want to do, or what you would like love to do, or what you would pay to do, is what I kind of say people that try to find what you would pay to do, and I think that is what would get you paid the best.
So the last question I had was one of the other passions that you mentioned. Do you have any recommended reading list for product managers?
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that there are now a few product management books out there. I would say that unless you are absolutely clueless about what product management is, you shouldn't be reading those. So I think a lot of product management books are not so helpful. I think what helps is generally building your skills around business acumen, about numbers. Read marketing books, read about selling, read about one needs to be good at psychology. There is a good book on social psychology. There are multiple good books on social psychology and user psychology from a lot of good authors. Those are very helpful. In general, I mean, reading about the world, books like how the world has actually shaped up, or a lot of people, in fact, also say, talk about history. That has also been really helpful. If you are a reader kind, then yeah, reading history, reading a bit of physics, in fact, a lot of product management, or a lot of products, sort of software product kind of forget physics. There is still a lot of physics that is applied. The inertia is real, friction is real. If you forget that, I think people kind of miss out on concepts of physics, and they miss out on the obvious things that would go wrong with the product. So I think, yeah, reading some of those things definitely helps a lot. So reading I think physics, economics, and psychology, I would say these are three topics that one must explore a lot, because these actually give you base of a lot that product management is around. Instead of product management books, I kind of suggest people to read these books. I think they have a larger impact on how you perceive problems, and how you think of solutions, and how you manage stakeholders, because that's what product management is about.
Thanks a lot, Ujjwal. That is a literally out of the box thinking on how to understand product management and looking at all dimensions. And this definitely probably calls for another conversation another time, because there are a lot of topics that you touched upon.
All right, thanks Shiva, for the opportunity. I love the conversation. Thanks a lot.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Malavika for promoting the Software People Stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.